Hello guys, welcome to day 2. The path begins towards engineering mastery. Yesterday we learned about the model C. Okay. So yesterday we studied that C is an imperative programming language. Day2 is the conversion character of size t. Z is for the double or for the float. We can use %f and %z interchangeably. It is widely used for scientific calculations as it can automatically detect and print in scientific notations like E. Why did we need C programming language? We already had assembly programming language, so why C? It's because assembly is machine dependent or platform dependent, or the assembly code that runs in one platform doesn't run in another platform, right? So we needed an abstraction, a programming language which will run on every platforms, and I think that is why they developed C. GCC versus C19. C19 is just a standard to the C programming language. C compilers, there are Clang, GCC, ICC. C compilers is there to help you. So if it throws any error while compiling C programs, listen to it. Okay, so today we're going to learn the principal structure of a program. The principal structure of a program. Okay, so let's add it here and set Day2, right? so we're going to do the structure of the C program, I guess. The principal structure of the program. The principal structure of the program, right? This section covers C grammar, declaring identifiers, defining objects, instructing the compiler with the statements. C grammar, C rules, declaring identifiers, defining objects, instructing the compiler with statements. Compared to our little exams in the previous section, real programs will be more complicated and contain additional constructs. Their structure will be very similar. Two categories of syntactical aspect and semantic. Yeah, I knew about it. There are two aspects: syntactical, where we deal with syntax, and then the semantics symbol kind of grammar. These elements are as follows. Special words include int, maybe unused. Okay, maybe unused. Strings, maybe unused. Practice. brackets group certain parts of the program together should always come in pair group. Okay, so bracket groups certain parts of the program. Yeah, it makes sense. Fortunately, the brackets are rare in C and are only used as shown in our example on the same logical line of text. The other five are not limited to a single line. Their content might span several lines, as they did when we used printf earlier. There are two different separators or terminators, comma and semicolon. When we use printf, comma separated the four arguments of the function on line 2, well, we saw that a comma also can follow the last element of the list of elements. One of the difficulties for newcomers to see is that the same punctuation characters are used to express different concepts. For example, the pair are each used for three different purposes in listing. Punctuation characters can be used for several different purposes. The construct, the already testing by that everything inside is comment. And C is arrogant. And there are directives, keywords, attributes, and reserved identifiers. On the different use of these two sets of brackets, the main thing that is present this is comment. Comments are ignored by the compiler, so it is the perfect place to explain and document your code. Certain place, documentation can and should greatly improve the readability and comprehensibility of your code. Another form of comment is the so-called C++ style comment, and in line 15 these are marked with double slashes. C++ style comments extend from the end of our line. Literals that refer to fixed values of the program. These are called literals. Fixed values of the program. These are called literals. Identifiers are names that relative to certain entities in the program, right? So identifier. So what is identifier? It is just a name that we provide to certain entities in a program. Okay, let's refer to functions main and printf. As we have already seen, printf is used by the program to produce some output. The function main in turn is defined, that is its declaration when void is followed by a function body indicated by this. Okay. It describes what the function is supposed to do. In our example, this function definition goes from line 6 to main has a special role in C programs, as we will encounter. It must always be present since it is the starting point of the program's executions. Operators of new our one only uses a few. For initialization and assignment, for comparison, to increment, to multiply. Attributes such as are placed into double square brackets, and so on. Attributes are placed in, okay, maybe unused, maybe unused is an attribute. We put attribute is science C. Just as in natural languages, the lexical elements on the grammar of C programs that we have seen here have to be distinguished from the actual meaning these constructs convey. In contrast to natural languages, this meaning is rigidly specified and usually leaves no room for ambiguity. In the following subsections, we will dig into the three main semantic categories that C distinguishes: declarations, definitions, and statements. Declaration, definitions, and declaration, what it is; definitions, where it is stored, and then the statement is what is supposed to do, what it is supposed to do, right? So 2.2 declarations. Before we use any particular identifier, we have to give the compiler a declaration that specified what the identifier is supposed to represent. In this way, identifiers differs from keywords. Keywords are predefined by the language and must not be declared or redefined. Several of the identifiers we use are effectively declared in our program main, argc, argv, later on with printf, mentions declaration of main function. All 5 declarations in isolation as declarations only look like this. Okay. It has an identifier, main crv as associated with the identifier is of type size t, argc is of type int, arg. We will see later what it is. For the moment, it is sufficient to know that it specifies the 4 of the identifiers: main, AI, which is in context of a statement that will provide some sort of numbers. For the indicates that it is a pointer. Principal features of the C language will only appear much later in this book. Declarations of argc, I, and A declare variables. Variables which are named items that allows us to store values. They are best visualized as a kind of box that may contain something of the particular type. Okay. Conceptually, it is a distance where the box itself, the object is type, the box contains value. The 3 identifiers we didn't see in the declarations. They are in fact pre-declared identifiers. However, as we saw when we tried to compile listing, it doesn't come out of nowhere. We have to tell the compiler where it can update information about them. By start with line 2 and 3. Okay, this makes sense. Because the specifics of the pre-declared features are of minor importance, this information is normally hidden from you. Include files or header files. If you need to know their semantics, it is usually a bad idea to look them up in the corresponding file, as these tend to be barely readable. Instead, search in the documentation that comes with the platform. As you're going to look at the currency standards, this is where I came from for the list. God encourages the following commands to help man about this. I haven't set up my tmux yet. That is why I have to open the was clearly really confusing for us and the compiler if there were several contradicting declarations for the same identifier in the same part of the program. So generally this is not allowed. C is quite specific about what the same part of the program is supposed to mean in the scope. So declarations are bound to the scope in which they appear. It's visual inside the definitions of the function name. General declarations only specify the kind of object an identifier refers to. Missing elements initializers equal to 0. Statement can be written in several other ways. Function return. The last statement is in main is a return. It tells the main function to return to this statement that it was called from once it's done. Here, since main has int as a return must send back a value of type int to the at the point where we call the function unless if the execution is temporarily suspended. So the execution continues at the point of the return is encountered. The execution continues from where. C distinguishes the lexical structure. Yeah, these things that I knew. Get you with C programs that is will provide you with enough knowledge to write and use good C programs. Good here refers to a more understanding of the language, avoiding most of the pitfalls of early dialects of C and offering use of constructs that were not present before and that are portable across the vast majority of modern computer architectures from your cell phone to mainframe computers. Having worked through these sections, you should be able to write solid code for everyday needs that is not extremely sophisticated but useful and portable. Buckle up guys. In many ways, C is a permissive language. Programmers are allowed to suit themselves in the foot or other body parts if they choose to, and C will make no effort to stop them. Therefore, just for the moment, we will introduce some restrictions. We'll try to avoid handing out guns in this level. And place the key to the gun safe out of your reach for the moment. Place the key to the gun safe out of your reach for the moment, marking its location with big and visible exclamation marks. The most dangerous constructs in C are the so-called casts, so we'll escape them at this level. However, there are many other pitfalls that are less easy to avoid. We will approach some of them in a way that might look unfamiliar to you. In particular, if you learned your C basics in the last millennium, or if you were introduced to C on a platform that wasn't upgraded to current iOS C for years. So experienced C programmers, if you already have some experience with C programming, what follows may take some getting used to or even provoke allergic reactions. If you happen to break out in hives when you read some of the code here, take a deep breath and try to relax, but please don't skip these pages. Okay, not skip these pages even if you're experienced C programmers. So for the inexperienced C programmers, if you are not an experienced C programmer, much of the following discussion may be a bit over your head. For example, we may use terminology that you have not yet even heard of. If so, this is is a declaration for you, and you may skip to the start of section 3 and come back later when you feel a little bit more comfortable, but be sure to do so before the end of this level. Some of getting used to our approach on this level may concern the emphasis and ordering in which we present the materials. We will focus primarily on the unsigned versions of integer types. Unsigned versions are the non-negative integers, because in unsigned it can only be positive, but in signed it could be negative or it could be positive. So we'll introduce pointers in these steps. First, in disguise as parameters to functions, then with the state being valid or not, and then on the next level using their entire potential. We'll focus on the use of arrays whenever possible instead. We might also be surprised by some style considerations that we will discuss in the following points. On the next level, we will dedicate an entire section to these questions, so please be patient and accept them for the moment as they are. We bind type modifiers, qualifiers, and attributes to the left. We want separate identifiers visually from their type. Yes, so we generally write types, right, and attributes to the left, so that we can visually separate the identifiers from their type. Okay, makes sense. So we'll be writing things as car, pointer name, where car is the type, and name is the identifier. We also apply the left binding rule to the qualifiers, so it represents rights. Here the first one qualifies the car to its left, to a pointer, and the second concern qualifies to the left, the attribute deprecated or depreciated clearly attaches to the identifier path name. We do not use continue declarations. They obfuscate the bindings of type declarations. Obfuscate. So they may obscure, confuse, unclear. Use continue, obfuscate the bindings. They confuse or unclear, obfuscate. Obfuscate is something like unclear or confused. Execute the bindings of type declarations. For example, here B has type unsigned const. That is, the first const goes to the type, and the second const goes to the declaration of A. That is the first const. Here B has type unsigned const A. The first const goes to the type, and the second goes to the declaration of A. Only goes to the declarations of A. Highly confusing, and here very important things to learn. We use array notations for pointer parameters. We do so whenever this assumes that the pointer can be null. Some examples are as follows: that the arguments can be null. The first example stresses the fact that string length must receive a valid non-null pointer and will access at least one element of string. The second summarizes the fact that main receives an array of argc plus 1 pointers. Car represent the second set of declarations when they add historic equivalent declarations of features that are declarations that are not defined as radial property doesn't add new information in this case. prefix, mostly for code blocks. This is separation for numbers. Human eye is not very good at perceiving the magnitude of numbers that are ranges. In running this video, we use a command as a thousand separators for large decimal numbers, and we even extend this format to digits after the period, as it, for example, a notable exception from this rule is years, where we do not apply 1,000 separators, since so this is the separator for a number literal stem dA that appears for a number to so guys, today I learned the very basics of C. Most of these things are something that I'm well aware about, or something that I'm well aware of. Yes, it talked about the syntactical aspect, semantical aspect, identifiers, keywords, right? Keywords, and then the basic structure of the program. That's it for today. Tomorrow we're going to learn everything is about control. We are going to cover conditional execution with if, iterating over domains, making multiple selections, right? Something like that. Okay, so thank you guys for watching.